the architecture behind calm during financial panic. Panic never begins with chaos. It begins with uncertainty. And uncertainty spreads faster than fear. This matters today because modern markets are not fragile by accident. They are fragile by design. They move enormous volumes at extraordinary speed, relying on confidence more than certainty. When confidence wavers, the system doesn't need a disaster to break. It only needs doubt. And that is when architecture matters most. London learned long ago that panic cannot be stopped once it becomes visible. It must be slow before it takes shape. Calm cannot be declared. It has to be engineered. And the structures that create calm are rarely seen, precisely because their success depends on invisibility. At first, panic was managed informally. Merchants reassured each other. Banks extended trust selectively. Information traveled slowly enough for emotion to cool before action followed. But as markets scaled, this approach failed. Fear moved faster than reassurance. Reaction outran reflection. The city needed something stronger than confidence alone. So it built architecture. Not buildings, but systems. Not walls, but buffers. Not control, but containment. Clearing mechanisms that absorbed shock. Settlement processes that delayed finality just enough to prevent cascade. Legal frameworks that provided certainty when judgment failed. Each layer existed for one purpose: to slow panic before it became irreversible. This architecture was never designed to eliminate fear. It was designed to give fear somewhere to go, because panic, when contained, loses its power. And London became the place where that containment was perfected. This architecture works by absorbing emotion before it becomes action. When uncertainty rises, markets don't panic all at once. They hesitate. Prices pause. Liquidity thins unevenly. These early signals are emotional, not rational. Participants are not reacting to loss yet. They are reacting to the possibility of loss. And that distinction is critical. London systems are designed to intercept this moment. Clearing structures step in between counterparties, removing the fear of immediate default. Settlement timelines introduce just enough delay to prevent impulsive exits. Margin processes recalibrate exposure gradually instead of violently. None of this stops fear. It slows its conversion into behavior. This delay creates space. Space for information to circulate. Space for interpretation to stabilize. Space for coordination to emerge. Inside the city, institutions recognize that calm is contagious, just as panic is. When participants see systems functioning as expected, belief returns incrementally. Even small signs of continuity can anchor confidence. A trade settling normally, a payment clearing on time, a process behaving predictably under stress. These signals matter more than reassurance, because fear responds to evidence, not words. The architecture behind calm does not promise safety. It demonstrates functionality. It shows that obligations are being met, that rules still apply, that outcomes remain bounded. And once markets believe that losses will be managed rather than multiplied, panic begins to fade. But this system is not passive. It requires constant tuning. Thresholds must be adjusted. Buffers must be sized correctly. Too much rigidity can worsen fear. Too little structure can allow chaos. London's advantage lies in experience. The city has seen panic in many forms. It has learned which pressures break systems and which merely test them. That learning is encoded not in memory, but in design. Because when panic arrives, there is no time to improvise. Only architecture can respond fast enough. The conflict emerges when panic pushes against the limits of containment. Every system has a threshold. When fear intensifies, buffers strain. Margin calls rise sharply. Liquidity becomes selective. Participants begin testing the architecture itself, searching for exits, probing for weakness. This is the most dangerous phase, not when panic is loud, but when it becomes strategic. London faces this moment with restraint rather than force. The city understands that visible intervention can amplify fear. Heavy-handed action signals desperation, so the response remains procedural. Systems continue operating. Processes follow their logic. Stability is expressed through repetition, not reaction. But behind that calm surface, Pressure is immense. Institutions communicate continuously. Data is shared quietly. Adjustments are coordinated without announcement. Each decision weighs two risks. Act too little and allow panic to spread. Act too much and confirm it. This balance is fragile and unforgiving during extreme stress. Even well-designed systems can feel insufficient. Participants doubt not because the architecture fails, but because fear seeks certainty. And certainty is impossible in a crisis. What matters is not eliminating doubt, but preventing it from becoming disorder. This is where architecture proves its deeper purpose. It does not promise safety. It promises limits. Losses may occur. Prices may fall. Institutions may fail. But the damage remains bounded. The system bends without breaking. Panic exhausts itself against constraints it cannot overcome. Over time, behavior shifts. Participants realize exits are narrower than expected. Fire sales slow. Coordination improves. The same architecture that once absorbed fear now reflects stability back into the system. But this reflection takes time. And time is the most valuable asset during panic. London's design does not rush resolution. It extends endurance. It allows the system to survive long enough for confidence to rebuild organically. Because panic fades when it realizes it cannot escalate further. And that realization is engineered. The climax arrives not with resolution, but with restraint. Panic reaches a point where it expects collapse, and instead, it meets resistance, not from force, but from structure. The architecture London built does not eliminate fear. It limits its reach. As pressure peaks, the system refuses to accelerate further. Clearing continues. Settlement completes. Obligations are honored where possible and managed where not. Losses occur, but they do not spiral. Panic pushes and the system holds. This is the moment calm begins to return. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but gradually. Participants realize that the worst-case scenario is no longer expanding. The boundaries are visible. The damage is finite. Once fear understands its limits, it loses momentum. Activity slows. Prices stabilize. Liquidity cautiously reappears. The system breathes again. This is a resolution engineered into the city. Calm is not a feeling. It is a condition. A condition created by systems that function under stress, rules that remain consistent, and architecture that absorbs emotion before it becomes catastrophe. London's greatest contribution to global finance is not prediction, speed, or control. It is endurance. Because markets don't need certainty to survive. They need containment. And when panic realizes it cannot escape the structure built around it, it begins to fade on its own. So here's the question that remains. In a world growing faster and more volatile each year, are our systems still built to contain fear? Or are we relying on confidence alone?